This episode of the MOC Squad was filmed in front of a live, members-only audience. Greetings, imagination connoisseurs, and greetings, Rob Meyer Burnett. Hello, Rob.
Well, Roberto, how are you?
I am doing well in this new year. Hope you had a lovely New Year's, and everybody out there also had a lovely New Year's celebration.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I was just telling you, I rang in the new year. Did we party? No. Elizabeth's parents and myself, we watched Ben-Hur for 4 hours.
That sounds just like an ideal movie for the New Year's. I gotta say.
And at midnight, we watched special features for Ben-Hur. It was fun, actually. I really liked it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I'm glad that we're all back together in the new year, and I see we have a lot of folks eager and waiting to join us here today. So we're gonna go ahead and unless you got anything else before we get started, Rob, should we just let him in the room?
Let everybody in the room, you know.
Here we go. Let's get everybody in. Boom. Welcome, everybody. As everybody cascades into the room, remember that if you want to join us live in the chat, you need to become a member of the YouTube channel. That way you get access to the Zoom meeting link, and you can join us here and ask a question or share a comment. And as you are pouring into the room, remember to use the raise your hand feature so that you can get on the queue to ask a question, and then we'll monitor that as we go along. So in the meantime, let me go ahead and get Rob front and center here, the man of the hour.
No, you guys are all the men and women of the hour. I just throw the party.
You're the reason we're here. You're the reason we're here. So. And then, Rob, how are you doing time-wise today? Just wanted to make sure you have.
Oh, I'm good, but
good?
I'm gonna have to at some point. I'm gonna have to like drain the main vein, only because I've been on a show for 2 hours drinking my water and coffee.
You came straight from another podcast over here. Okay, so we'll stick to our regular time limit. Is that okay? 7 minutes per person or so, and then we'll go from there. Do you want me to bump it up?
No, let's go from there.
Let's go from there. Okay, sounds good. All right. Well, remember, folks, use the raise your hand feature there, and I will try to get you on the queue. It looks like the Cookie Master General himself, Call Me Ish, is our first person on the queue here. So let's go ahead and get you added. Welcome, Ish. How are you doing?
Hello, guys. Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year.
How are you, sir? Happy New Year to you.
I'm doing great. Rob. Had a good New Year's day. Had family over, friends, and celebrate the coming of the New Year. So I'm swell so far.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. Just want to start out today, tell everybody Happy New Year's, and gotta pee. Somebody told me something, just triggered me off this morning, so I want to just say this. At what point did we get rid of this term "sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me"? To where I'm so sensitive that you can't say nothing to me without hurting my feelings, because this is annoying.
You hit the nail on the head, my friend. Words are violence. I really don't understand that at all. But we now have, I mean, really I don't know, the new era of people coming up put their feelings and how they personally feel supersedes everything else. And
everybody else has to accommodate them, and it's weird.
It's bizarre. I mean, like again, when I was a kid, my dad told me that when you go out into the world, don't expect that the world isn't going to hit you back and punch you in the face, and you need to be ready for that, and you need to protect yourself. And how you protect yourself is you become intelligent, you become sensitive, but you also become a pragmatist, and you understand that the world is not going to be the way you want the world to be. Yeah. And you have to figure out how to go make your way in the world. And nowadays, I don't understand. I really don't understand this idea that if somebody, I mean, look, it's all a result of people thinking there are safe spaces. There's no safe spaces in the world.
Yeah, there's
You're
not.
not safe from words or ideas, or I mean, we can't even have legitimate conversations about certain topics without immediately being branded ists or phobes or something. And when did this happen? When
Yeah.
did the idea that if you can't even have an exchange of ideas without somebody getting triggered or angry? I mean, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, and another thing is, that how is somebody supposed to know somebody's pronouns if they've never even spoken to them?
Well, that's that, and
But
also
they get into that, and it's just like I don't understand.
I don't understand. If you're telling me you're not something, like non-binary, what does that mean? Well, if you're non-binary, what are you?
Yeah.
And I think that I would like to know the definition of that. Like, if you're going to tell me something you're not, I need you also at the same time to tell me something that you are.
Yeah.
And the problem with being non-binary is, the way I see it, is people can define themselves as non-binary, but I question as to whether they know who they are. What does
Yeah.
that mean? I understand you don't identify with being a male or a female. I get that, but what do you identify as? What do you bring to the table? How do I know if we're going to work together? How do I know how to deal with you?
Yeah.
And that's that's the question that I think, I said, I play it now in the front of Observations when the critical drinker brought up on the Russell Brand show. He brought me up by name and he said that I said that authenticity is going to be the currency of the 21st century in our AI world. I think the most important thing that we have going for us is we all need to know who we are, and we need to know what do we bring to the world.
Yeah.
And I think if you don't know who you are and what you bring to the world, that is problematic. Because if you don't know who you are, how can you expect anyone else to know who you are?
Yeah, exactly.
And you have to choose. You have to pick a side. That doesn't mean the side of gender. But if you're going to tell me you're something new, explain it to me. Tell me who you are so I know how I can deal with you the way you want to be dealt with and the way I know how to deal with you. Because everyone's trying to impose. Don't impose your will on the world and expect the world not to hit back.
Yeah. Yep. And also I was saying that Lucasfilms, I don't know what's wrong with these people, but I think this new movie, this Ray movie, I think it's a bad idea. I think it's just as bad as Solo, because only thing Solo did for me was it messed up the Kessler Run for me. My whole thoughts on the Kessler Run was something way different than that. I thought it was more like, growing up, I thought it was more like a race, and it was like a timed race or something that everybody was trying to do. And to come to find out it's a smuggler's run, it just messed that up for me. And all Lucas had to say when when it comes to parsecs is that all he had to tell everybody was like, look, in our universe, a parsec's a measure of distance. In this universe, it's a measure of time. That would have been it. That whole
Right.
argument would have been over, and we'd have been good with it.
But see, even if it's a measure of distance, it could have been a part of space that's full of obstacles,
Yeah.
and that's kind of how I always thought is that you thread a needle, and if you can thread the needle fast enough, you don't have to go down the Horn of Africa. You can go through the Suez Canal.
Yeah.
If you know what you're doing. And I always thought that made Han Solo. That's why he was fast. The Millennium Falcon was the fastest hunk of junk in the galaxy. I didn't like the fact that there's creatures in space, in the
they're
Kessel
just
Run.
There. Yeah. Yeah, that octopus thing. Wow, I don't know what that was. Yeah, that was something. But last night on the you were talking about J.J. Abrams and bringing ships up out of the water and out of the snow. And I was saying, how come you didn't say anything about Dune? They did that on Dune.
Well, okay. Here's the thing, though, that the fact that Caladan is a water-based society, and I had no problem with those ships coming out of the water. I didn't.
Okay.
That didn't bother me because we'd never seen those ships before.
Okay, that I didn't understand.
Yeah, and so what I meant is like the thing about the very design of capital ships, like so, what Ishmael's referring to is that I don't like the fact that J.J. Abrams has a weird fetish about taking spaceships and putting them on the ground or in the water or in the ice. The X-wings in Force Awakens are flying over water. You know, they're flying on and they're constantly on. There's no space battles. They're all on the ground. You know, Star Killer Base is on the ground, so it's like jet fighters attacking a target. And I don't like seeing capital ships like Star Destroyers floating over like Jeddah. I hate that. And J.J. Abrams does that constantly. The Enterprise is built on the ground. The Enterprise's design means it has to be constructed in space. That's why the warp nacelles have little tiny struts holding them up. It always bothered me. Didn't like it.
Good to see you, Ish. Hope you had many baked cookie this holiday season. And we're going to bring in Julian now. Julian, you should be able to unmute. Welcome.
Hello. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year. Are you having fun did you have fun? I didn't watch your show last night, but with episode 9.
Oh yeah. That's I'm like, man, what the hell? It's like, they still haven't convinced me that bringing this massive rock back to Earth is going to be great for everybody on Earth. It's only going to be great for the people who control the resources. So, they still haven't brought that about. But at the same time, I was wondering how, if they succeed in bringing that asteroid into Mars orbit, how are they going to control Soviets and U.S. from trying to come back out and deal with them? And I was wondering if there's kind of hints that Helios kind of controls all the space travel now, that it's mostly their ships that are being used, that the Soviets and the NASA, that they've given over power to Helios to construct. There was that whole thing about, this is how much it's going to cost. And they're like, oh, we can't do that, and she's like, well, we got to start making new ships or else you're not going out to Mars. So,
Yep.
Dev's got something. He's like, oh, you're going to try and come out to me? I'm thinking, what if he's got some sort of a virus or something that he can control all Helios software, and it's like, yeah, I don't think you're coming out to give us a hard time. It's the only thing I can think of right now. But I'm sure intrigued to see what's going on.
Yep. I'm not saying nothing.
Oh, and I appreciated that greatly.
I love that show so much, and but man, I did not like. I knew it was coming, but still, I found the end of episode 9 quite sad.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yes. Over the holiday, I binged Ted Lasso, and that was very cool.
Nice.
Very cool. I have the last episode of season 3 left to go, and that was fun. The wife decided we were going to watch Passengers because none of us had seen that, and that was
the movie.
Yeah, the movie.
What'd you think?
Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of problems. Story, it's mostly story. It's like, well, if this, then why not? It's like beyond the whole thing of him taking away her, decision making and that type of stuff, making that decision that he was going to bring her out, and then her not telling her and her finding out like a year later. It's like, you bastard. So, but then that chief gets awakened, Lawrence Fishburne. He's like, what's with this tree? And it's like, dude, if you had gone through the roster, you probably could have woken this guy up instead of her and tried to fix some things. It's like, so yeah, it had some issues, but the whole method of sending a ship out like that with everybody asleep and the whole habitat rotating when nobody needs it, my wife brought up a good thought that perhaps keeping gravity on even when they were in hypersleep would help alleviate some of the atrophy that happens to people even when they are active in
that's a
zero
good
G.
point.
So I suppose, but still, it was one of those movies where you go, well, I watched that.
It looked good though.
Yeah, it was pretty. It looked good. It looked like an awful lot of waste of space. I thought the whole luxury liner mode of colonization was kind of exorbitant. Maybe there are other groups out there that are colonizing with more economical ships. Yeah.
But it's a long way. There was 100 years.
Yeah.
You know?
So,
I mean, and that's the kind of thing we're going to eventually have to do if we're going to colonize, space. If we're not going to do it just with robotics, but we shall see. But I like they changed the ending from the original script, and which I don't know. I thought it was okay. I mean, it was interesting because I liked the script when I read the script. And sometimes perhaps stories shouldn't get made because there was a lot of when that movie came out, a lot of controversy over what Chris Pratt had done. And it's like, to me, he was going to either kill himself or do this unthinkable thing. And, he couldn't bring himself to kill. I mean, I can't even imagine what that kind of loneliness would feel like.
Yeah. That's kind of crazy. I don't know. I had a thought and then it just escaped. Anyway, I just wanted to say, hey, Happy New Year. Glad we're starting a new adventure, and off we boldly go.
Absolutely. Off we boldly go. And let's hope it is good. I mean, it's going to be, look, regardless, it's an election year. It's already crazy. So, we'll see. Once again, we have the Supreme Court now deciding upon an election. How's that going to go? States' rights, I guess, don't matter anymore.
They just might. It depends on what they decide.
Yeah, it really depends on what they decide. I mean, it's again, like with Hollywood movies, I just want to see people who are really good at their jobs step up and do their jobs. That's what I want to see. I want to see great people that inspire me. And in terms of the movie going thing, Oppenheimer was a very inspirational movie, I thought. In terms of the fact that it got made, the fact that it was so successful, the fact that people were happy to see it, and I want more of that. Again, we have to go back to I believe in merit, and our society is being killed by what Ish was saying at the beginning, by people that want their feelings to have more importance than their abilities or their character, and I think that's silly.
All right, well, thanks everyone. Thanks, Robert.
Good to see you, man.
All right, let's see. We've got Stubble McShave coming up next. Welcome, Stubble.
I don't know if you can hear you.
Oh, can you hear me, Stubble? Oh, he's switching. Can you hear us now, Stubble?
Yeah. I got the wrong headphones on.
Oh, we can hear you. What's going on, dude?
Oh, I'm not much really. I just finished a new book by Tom Hanks.
Oh, the novel about making a movie?
Yeah.
Was it good?
It was fine. It was good. It was not the masterpiece, but it was it was fine. It was good. Thumbs up from me.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So if you don't know what to read, you can check it out. And yeah, he had a sentence for the view when I read it. He said that prep for a movie was diplomacy, the shoot was the war, and post was the occupation.
Wow. I love that.
I like that because you craft the movie after you shoot it. So, right.
What that's so diplomacy, war, and the occupation. That is
Yeah.
genius.
Yeah. So I thought you'd like that, but yeah. Otherwise, I'm just started The Sparrow by Mary Doyle Russell. I don't know.
Oh, I've read
have
The
you-
Sparrow.
Yeah.
I'll be very curious to hear what you think of that.
I just started it, so I haven't got more than a few pages into it.
You know, they've been
Yeah.
trying to make that for a long time, and I keep hearing people were somebody was going to make that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's gonna. That's a tough one, but it's a very interesting story.
Yeah. Anyway, on your previous, you were on the Salty Nerds podcast.
Yes.
Yes. And I thought about, MCU movies and all of that. And you know, to me, it's like comic book movies are like pizza. Pizza is good,
Right.
but you don't want pizza every weekend for years on end. And if you know what I mean. And
yeah, and no, of course. But the thing is, it still has to be good. There's
And I think that they experimented with putting broccoli on their pizza. if you know what I mean, it doesn't really fit. And then you don't like it. Then you like it less than you did before. And I think they should take a break, 4 or 5 years without any comic book movies, and then start again when people have a hunger for it. Because now the normies are, they don't care.
I think the problem is that there's been so many comic book movies. Comic book films as a genre don't have a lot of places to go in terms of the stories that they're telling. And there's been a deluge of comic book films for the last 15 years. And the thing is, after the Infinity War or the Infinity Saga was over, where do you go after that? I mean, Infinity War and Endgame were the culmination of the previous films, and they were really satisfying. And even Spider-Man Far From Home was the sort of the period on that whole paragraph or whatever was good. But once you've done that, then you have to start. I was saying I never thought of this before, but on the Salty Nerd podcast, I was like, okay, what if you did the inverse of what they did the first time? And so the first movie of Phase 4 should have been a Kang movie, and you make it like Iron Man 1. You make it the story of one man and how he became what he is. He has a crisis of conscience and go maybe the other direction. So you set Kang up as a character, and we know him. And because, the way it's set up as a villain, he's been defeated twice, Loki and Quantumania, and who cares about him? They're trying to make him a big bad, but how is he a big bad? He's been defeated already. So they want to make Kang Dynasty. I mean, after Quantumania, I'm like, Kang's over, man.
Yeah. And I think also that, storytelling is you set up promises for what the story is going to be. You have the progress for, the progress of the sense of progress, and then you have your payoff.
Yeah.
But what has the progress been, and what are the promises? They haven't set up any promise. They have said there's a Kang guy and there's a multiverse thing, but there's like 5 different multiverse things. They don't have any. You have to be specific, when you set these things up. But they just throw things at the wall.
I mean,
see what sticks.
With Eternals, Arishem the Judge is supposed to come back and judge the Earth. They haven't touched on that again. I mean, from Age of Ultron, Winter Soldier, and Civil War, you had a lot of things set up. The Sokovia Accords, you found out that Hydra had infiltrated for the American government for a long time. Captain America and Bucky and all that stuff. So within the movies, there was this narrative thrust. We don't even know what the Avengers roster is. Is there even an Avengers team?
And the thing in the ocean, the guy coming out of the ocean, that was a promise that they set up. This is something that we are going to revisit. This is something that's going to play a part in what's to come. But No. So the promises haven't been, specific, or they haven't followed up on them, and there has not been any real progress on the meta story.
No.
If you look at the first 3 phases, you had a very clear progress. You could count the stones that was left until the final. You know where you were in the saga. You get what I mean?
I do. And I just don't think that, I don't understand where, I don't understand how that wasn't done over all these movies, how they didn't tie this stuff together. I mean, clearly what's really interesting is if they're going to do a Blade movie, which I don't even know if they will, you've got an Agatha Harkness series coming out. You've got Shang-Chi dealing with a mystical realm. You had Miss Marvel, basically the antagonists were supernatural.
But wait a moment.
No worries.
Yeah. Continue.
But with all of this happening, they could have leaned into more of the supernatural aspects of the MCU, Werewolf by Night as well. And they could have, but they didn't. And everything seems to have gone into a cul-de-sac. Yeah. Doctor Strange went off to some other realm. Like, we don't know anything about what's happening with, like you said, the meta story.
What they should have done was start with the ending. Where will this end? And where do we start?
I don't know. And I think they should have thought about that. I would have thought they would have thought about that from the very beginning.
Yeah. Okay. Roberto, I won't. It's okay. Bye.
All right. We'll see you later, Stowell. Take care. All right. Jeff Bingham, you are coming up next.
I'm gonna get to your script this week.
I was gonna say, I knew you weren't gonna get to it. I knew you haven't gotten to it, and I knew that you probably weren't gonna get to it over Christmas break, because when you said it on the last members only chat of the year 2023, you said you were gonna be doing a bunch of other things.
Yes.
So I knew you weren't gonna get to that. So
yeah,
I knew you haven't gotten to it.
But now I'm back to work.
Yeah. Back to work, which means, you probably are not going to get to it anyway. So
no, I will. Oh no, I will.
Okay. So wait, why does it say? Okay, looks like I'm done talking. Am I missing something? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like I was done talking, so we're just gonna lower my hand. But whatever.
Oh.
Yeah, it's fine. If you can hear me, that's fine.
Yeah.
So, did you read in Variety that profile on the Safdie brother, Benny Safdie?
I didn't, but I'm a fan of them.
Yeah, but there's the part where Dwayne Johnson addresses the movie that he's going to be doing with Benny Safdie, and let's just say that he's restored some goodwill with me with the comments that he made.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because basically he pretty much said what some of us have been feeling, which is that, it would be nice to see him start to do something different. And he pretty much said, yeah, I'm at a point in my career where I want to do different things than just the 4 quadrant stuff. Although he said he's not gonna abandon that stuff. But I gotta get the vibe that I think if you were to analyze his career movie by movie, particularly over the last 10 years, certainly you would conclude that there are a number that are fun and entertaining. But I think you would also conclude that the majority of those movies are disposable, even the ones that you found fun and entertaining. And because of that, those types of movies don't really leave a lasting legacy based on their merit. And I can definitely sense that Wayne Johnson is the type of person who wants to leave a legacy.
Sure. I agree. I mean, it's interesting. When I think about Michael Bay's Pain and Gain, where Dwayne Johnson's in that movie with Mark Wahlberg, that's a movie based on a real event. I think Dwayne Johnson's really great in it. But I think more importantly, I mean, what do movies in general mean to our culture now? I mean, it seems like all content has gotten to a point where a lot of it is disposable. And there's so much content being made now that it's hard for any of it to have any kind of a lasting impact. And I think that that's sort of unfortunate, because I grew up in a world where movies really mattered to me. I've often said that movies were the art form of the 20th century, because they were technology combined with all the storytelling that had been around for a long time, the confluence of music, of movement, of theater, of literature, with the added benefit of technology making movies possible. And I just wonder, I mean, I think that nowadays movies, certainly among younger people, have been supplanted as the primary entertainment, because now it's games, it's interactivity, whether it's TikTok videos or Instagram or whatever. There's not a lot of interest in film, not the way there used to be. So I don't even know moving forward how movies going to last. Are they going to stick around? They'll probably always will have some form of them, but who knows when we have AI assisted artificial environments that people are going to be able to, essentially holodecks that people are going to delve into. Is that technology? I don't know. I really don't know, but I see it all changing drastically in the coming decades.
Yeah. Although I think when it comes to Dwayne Johnson making this shift, I think he could probably sense like perhaps the future if he continued going on with just what he's been doing.
Yeah.
You know? And I think maybe Hollywood could eventually catch on too, but obviously that's wait and see. Although
One day Dwayne Johnson will make like his Copland, the way Stallone made Copland. Dwayne Johnson will make a movie like that, and he'll be seen as a more, I mean, he's kind of pigeonholed because of the way he looks, his physique. He's a big strapping guy with huge muscles. Can he play a romantic lead? I mean, John Cena was it in Bridesmaids, was hilarious, but would
Trainwreck, you mean?
Oh, Trainwreck, yeah, Trainwreck. Pardon me, Trainwreck. Can he do that? Can he make that transition? I think he probably can, but it's going to be, we'll have to wait and see. His
Although
A20.
I mean, it's not the same thing. I mean, at the same time, it's not just about like the kinds of roles and performances he gets, but in general, like the kinds of movies that he does. Because while he said he wasn't going to abandon the 4-quadrant stuff, hopefully working with a storyteller like Benny Safdie will perhaps inspire him to gravitate towards perhaps more story-driven movies than movies that are driven by selling points. And that includes 4-quadrant movies, because the problem for me isn't so much the general notion of 4-quadrant. It's been kind of their approach to those movies, which to me has come up as, for lack of a better word, cynical. They just settle for the bare minimum. And I feel like the cynicism seems to be that we, even 4-quadrant audiences, don't want more than the bare minimum.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see. I think what people want are, as always, great stories well told. And we don't want to see derivative stories. You want to see compelling films, and the uncut gems.
Perfect balance of art and commerce is what we want to see.
That's yes.
And
I agree
Uncut
with that.
Gems. What were you saying about Uncut Gems before I get cut off?
Well, it's a great movie, and look what it did for Adam Sandler in that film. That's what Dwayne Johnson needs, and not a movie exactly like Uncut Gems, but something like that, and he'll probably get it. So,
okay,
yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
All right. Great to see you, Jeff. Go ahead and remove that pin. Rob, by the way, speaking of actors that will be difficult for them to play other parts, I was just thinking about the guy who plays Reacher.
Oh, yeah. Alan Ritchson.
Because he's so big, but you know who I think he would be great? And if we paired him up with Lee Pace to be Midnighter and Apollo with Midnighter.
Oh my
Lee
God.
Pace as Apollo and Richter as Midnighter. Don't you think they'd be awesome in those
Yeah.
roles?
Yeah, I got to tell you something. I saw a thing on Twitter yesterday that made my jaw hit the floor. There was a girl who posted a picture, one of the topless photos of Richardson as Reacher.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I don't like the way he looks. He looks fat. And she was going off about how fat he looked. And I'm like, oh my God, there's like not an ounce of fat on that guy. And there was this argument erupted.
Mm-hmm.
And people were posting pictures of, and she's like, he must be on steroids and all this. And it's like, no, he probably, and people were posting pictures from like 50 years ago of men who worked out that looked like Richardson. And this girl, I don't know if she was trolling,
Right.
but it was definitely triggering. And I'm like, wow, man, our civilization is so out of touch. Like people, so like, what do you want? Timothy Chalamet? I mean,
Right, yeah.
you know, and the thing about that guy, I love Rich, and even the way he walks, he looks like he's so uncomfortable walking. I love. I mean, I don't necessarily think Alan Richardson's the greatest actor in the world, but again, he's perfect in that part.
Right.
I love Reacher.
Mm-hmm.
Because I read their Lee Child books. I love what they've done with the show. This season is great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's did you get I watched the latest episode 6. That was great.
Reacher?
Yeah.
I'm behind. I'm maybe an episode behind right now, so I gotta get caught up. Yeah.
Dude.
But yeah, because a lot of people have been saying they would like to see him play Batman, but I think somebody a little bit less prominent, like Midnighter, but who's a Batman analog, and then with the whole dynamic with him and Apollo, and having somebody like Lee Pace in the Apollo role, like I'm just thinking how he looks in Foundation. He already looks like Apollo,
right?
You know, so I don't know. I think it would be a really interesting combo, those two. So, hey, we have a $20 super chat or 20 CHF super chat. I'm not really sure what the denomination is, but from Martino.
I think that's Swiss.
That's Swiss, right? So
Martino Simoni.
He says, "Happy New Year, RMB and PGS." And Eduardo Ramirez sends $1.99 saying public access special edition when DVD scan is thumbs down.
It's funny that you ask that. So public access is the first movie Bryan Singer made.
Okay.
And it shared the grand prize at the Sundance Film Festival with Ruby in Paradise. I was involved in. It's funny because I can't reach it, but right behind me, I have a 1-inch NTSC Video Master of public access, and I was trying to help Brian. We don't know where the negative is.
Yeah, no worries.
So we don't know. And it's frustrating because I wanted to, there was a time when The Usual Suspects was owned by Columbia, and I had pitched Columbia Home Video. They hadn't made an App Pupil special edition, and I wanted to do a Bryan Singer indie box set and produce all the special features. And I wanted to do public access, Usual Suspects, and App Pupil, and do it as one box set. And that was moving forward. And then they took over, somehow went back to Fox or something, and it just never happened. And so it was unfortunate because I really wanted to do special features for App Pupil. And I really wanted to do special features for public access, because Brian, the way public access got made was really interesting. So Brian and two other filmmakers, Arthur Borman, who made the movie And God Spoke, and there was another filmmaker, and I forget who it was. The three of them teamed up. I want to say this was in 91 or 92. And they teamed up and they rented out the Directors Guild of America. And they got Sam Raimi to host. And they had a full bar and all this great food they brought into the DGA. And it was going to be 3 new filmmaking visions, and each filmmaker had a short film. And Brian had made a movie called Lion's Den, that Chris McQuarrie wrote because they all grew up together, and Ethan Hawke was in, and so was Brian. And it was about 4 friends that get together at this restaurant, the Lion's Den, after their first year of college and talk about what it is and it's kind of how they changed and everything. Really good little movie, like little less than a half an hour long. And then there are 2 other movies. And this is genius. This is why Brian got to where he was in the business. They invited all these people to this screening, and then it was booked solid, packed house. Then they took out an ad in the trades about this screening. So everybody in the business, like, oh my God, we have to go to this. We have to send our representatives, and people would call and go, we'd like to. Sorry, it's sold out. So they created this frenzy. Like everybody had to get into this screening. And when people were sitting in the aisles, I mean, this thing was packed. and then people stayed because the booze was good and the food was good. And Brian, because of that night, was given $250,000 by a Japanese company to, I don't remember the name of the company, but he could make anything he wanted, but then they would own the movie. And they made public access.
That's where public access came from. I see.
Yeah. And then it went to Sundance, and it shared. I want to say that Wim Wenders was the head of the jury that year, if I remember correctly. But it would have been in 92 or 93. I think it was 93. But yeah, the movie had a limited release, but that film is what got him the budget to be able to make Usual Suspects.
Got it.
That's how you start a career.
That is, yeah. Eduardo Ramirez is replying again, saying, Shane Ron Marquette died young. He's godlike in PA, in public access.
Oh, he's the main character. And I think he took his own life, unfortunately. But public access is a really interesting, it's very much like a Stephen King story. And in the sense, this stranger comes into town and sets up a public access TV show.
Oh, okay.
Where he starts exposing the secrets
a little Storm of the Century kind of vibes there.
Yeah, a little, even though that was pre-Storm of the Century, maybe a little bit of Needful Things like Leland Gaunt and all that. No.
Interesting.
So,
all right.
And it's hard to get. I mean, you can't get that. It's hard to get public access.
Yeah, it looks like, I mean, from what Eduardo was saying, it looks like only that an old DVD scan is all that's available. So.
Yeah, and it blows.
Yeah.
So we were looking around. I found stuff at Pacific Title. This is recent too. This was like within the last 6 months. You know, I was talking with Brian about it because I have a box. When I was doing this, I gathered up all this material. Some of it I still have. I never gave it back to him because, you know, where was he going to put it? So I have a lot of his stuff that I'd love to return to him, but I haven't done that yet.
All right. Pedro Ferreira is coming up next. Welcome, Pedro.
What's up, dude?
Able to join us now?
Hi, you're right.
I was right.
Do you have a good Christmas?
Oh yeah, the Christmas was great. It was lovely. Many Christmas dinners with the folks, with Elizabeth's folks. Many family-oriented things happening. Really, really good.
That's good.
Did you?
It was all right, I guess. Yeah, it was all right. Did you see that? Did you see that thing I sent you? That screenshot?
Yes. I'm
this
sorry.
This is what I'm up against because if you want to support something that might lead to physical media being around, then that's it, really. You know.
Yeah, I'm sorry I have to deal with that.
Yeah, this is the kind of ignorance to deal with. So yeah.
But you can just turn it off. Don't go onto the boards. Don't.
Well, the problem is they spread like a disease across. So everywhere I go,
right. But all you have to do is turn everything off for a month. Just go away for a month.
Yeah.
Come back later.
It'd still be there. I'm sure they'd have like loads to. I'm sure they'd find loads on me. Loads of misinformation or whatever to spread in that time. But yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely. I don't know. I've already been kind of lenient towards them, so yeah. But it's kind of crazy, but it is what it is, I guess. It's one of the problems of being on social media.
It is,
but it's kind of similar to. I suppose stuff that you get online as well.
I get all kinds of shit online.
Yeah.
I mean,
so you kind of you relate, I guess, slightly.
Yeah, I mean, there's people, especially the people that hate me the most are Star Trek fans.
Yeah,
I mean, which is fine.
Star Trek was always woke.
Well, yeah, all that. It's interesting. People always misunderstand. Again, for me, it's a great story, well told.
Yeah.
And I think especially Star Trek Discovery has not done that.
No,
And
none of them have. None of the new modern Star Trek has. I was just saying, I watched the movie this Christmas, and I wrote a review about it. And I've seen this movie tons of times. It's one of my favorite Christmas movies, but they released it in 4K finally. So
Scrooged.
Yeah,
that movie is awesome.
I know. It's one of my favorite Christmas movies.
Yeah.
I watch it every now and again. It's in 4K. I've never seen it in 4K before. They just released it in 4K. And interestingly enough, the extra features on this, I don't know if you're aware of this, but the extra features on this, they were done back in 2006.
Yeah.
They've never been released before.
Really? I didn't realize that they hadn't released the special features.
They've been wanting to release this. They've been wanting to release this with extras since 2006.
Wow.
And every 5 years, Paramount kept putting out an ad saying it's going to be released this year. It's going to be released this year. And only now have they, I think they released it on Blu-ray last year or 2 years ago. And they've put it on 4K now with extras, but those extras were produced in 2006.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the great things for us, like the special features.
I was just going to say, I don't get why was it such a long wait? Like, what was wrong about the?
Well, those special features were probably released on Blu-ray or DVD back in 2006. But what happens is, they weren't.
No. This is the first time they're being released. That's what I mean. Since 2006, these were done in 2006, and they've just, for the 4K, they've just put them on.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's happening now. Like, for instance, this past year, Kino Lorber put out Usual Suspects, and then Shout Factory and Eureka put out Valley Girl, and I did special features for both of those movies. And you couldn't get those special features since 2001 and 2003. Yeah. And so our special features for Usual Suspects, which I loved, I thought we did a great job. They hadn't been available on Blu-ray. They hadn't been available for 20 years, and they came out again. And I think it's great. I mean, shout out to Kino Lorber, shout out to Eureka. Everybody's going back, and because I think there was a thought that most of these special features were made at they were made in standard definition because high def didn't exist then. The first time.
I think these particular special features were done for, I think they were 185, these special features. I think they were done for I think they may have been done for HD, these
They might have, and they just didn't come out. But we had 16:9, but we didn't have, like, the first time I got HD, when I started working on Superman Returns in 2005, we started out with standard def cameras. And a couple months in, I was able to get the Sony Z1 HDV cameras, and they were high def cameras. And we shot most of the Superman Returns documentary in HD. Warner Brothers said no, they didn't want it in HD. We had to finish the special features in standard def, which really sucked because I would love to have gone. I'd love to go back and, I mean, I have the tapes. I could go back and if I have the time to.
Well, the only disappointing thing about this release is that, I mean, it looks pretty good. The only disappointing thing about this release is that they've had since 2006 to create new extras, but they've kind of just like, oh, we have this thing from 2006, let's put it on the.
Well, the thing is that they don't. The reason they don't do that is because they don't. The studios no longer really spend money on extras the way they used to.
And it's a shame because half for the retrospective documentary they've got on the disc, they only managed to get 2 cast members, and the film has, if you've seen the film, it has tons and tons of people. Half of those people are still alive, but it's still loads of people they could have got for the documentary.
Well, the thing is, back then in 2006, what people wanted to get paid to be in those documentaries, and it was really tough. Like when I was doing my Tron documentary, I wanted to get David Warner to be in it.
Yeah, I wondered
And
why didn't he appear in that
I
one?
tried and tried and tried, and his agent said, if you want him in your documentary, you have to pay him $75,000. And I said, $75,000 is the entire budget for the documentary.
So everyone else still got paid, or did they do?
No one got paid. You know, and what's so funny was when I got in touch with Jeff Bridges, who was up in Santa Barbara, he's like, yeah, man, I'd love to come talk about Tron. What do you want to do? And so I went to Fess Parker's place, the hotel and stuff. We rent out a room, and Jeff Bridges comes down, and just like he was so funny because not only did Jeff Bridges come down to do the Tron documentary, he comes in with a brown paper bag, and you know, he was couldn't have been nicer. And he goes, man, look what I found. And he opens up the brown paper bag, and there was his Tron helmet, the actual helmet he wore in Tron, and it was, you know, spray painted white, and it had black chart pack tape that they'd put on it from his original costume because of the way they did the film. And it's so funny because, you know, Jeff Bridges has his hair and stuff, and I go, dude, would you put that on? He's like, I don't know, man. My hair's kind of my thing. And so I put up an Apple box next to his director's chair, and I just put the helmet on the on the Apple box next to the director's chair. And I'm having this conversation with him, and he goes, you know, sometimes when I walk by a computer, I think he says on Tuesdays or something, and then he grabbed the helmet, he put it on. It's in the documentary. You can see it. Because I feel that pull. I feel the computers, like it's pulling me. It's pulling me, which is fucking hilarious. And I mean, that was the spirit with which we were doing documentaries in the aughts. And a lot of actors were on board. But the thing was, DVDs were making so much money that some people wanted to get paid. And the problem was our budgets wouldn't support that. And which was a bummer. The last time I worked on a project where the actors got paid was Star Trek: The Next Generation. Which we weren't going to get the actors at first. We was just going to be behind the scenes people. And then shout out to Ken Ross, one of the greatest video executives who ever lived. Ken Ross, Big Daddy Ken, as we called him. He started in home video in the late 70s at Magnetic Video with Andre Blais, 20th Century Fox. And he was in charge of CBS Home Entertainment. And without him, we would never have had the cast for Star Trek: The Next Generation, which, by the way, my documentaries, if you can see it, here is right here, the Picard box set, the Picard Legacy. All of our documentaries for Star Trek 10 years after the fact were re-released on this set. And it's great because we finished them all in high definition. So they're all on Blu-ray again after 10 years, which is great.
All
So
right.
shout out to Ken Ross.
Thanks. Shout out to Pedro. Thanks for joining us. Another super chat just came in, also from Eduardo Ramirez. This one for $9.99. He says, ran into Parker Posey at South by Southwest last year. Tried asking her about Superman Returns, and she couldn't answer. Said it's hard for her to talk about Sydney, and it's due to Kevin Spacey. You saw it all. So what happened? Or how much can you say?
They didn't like each other. And there was a scene, and some of it you can see. There was a scene in the boat and then yacht where Kevin Spacey wanted her to hit him, slap him in the face. And she had a real hard time. And she's like, I can't hit you like that. I just can't do that. And Brian made her do it, and Kevin Spacey wanted her to hit him, and she just didn't want to do it. She was incredibly uncomfortable, and it was a very uncomfortable moment on the set
on
that
the shoot.
day.
Yeah.
I mean, Parker Posey was amazing. She was so cool, and because I was lucky because normally documentarians don't get the access I had, but because I'd been friends with Brian for, at that time, 20 years plus, you know, everyone knew that I could go wherever, I could talk to anybody. So I ended up becoming friends with a lot of the actors. Like I would plan, they were calling me to find out, well, what are we doing Friday and Saturday nights? So I kind of became like Julie, the cruise director on the Love Boat. where it would be funny because on Saturdays I would get up in the morning, and I lived at One King's Cross, which is, if you've seen pictures of Australia, there's the Coca-Cola sign, and where I lived was that you went down Darlinghurst Road or you went into King's Cross. So what I would do is I would walk from this is my Saturday routine. I would walk down to downtown Sydney, and I don't remember the name of this, to the comic book store. And I would go by, and it was in downtown. I forget the street, but it's like not Stewart Street. William Street was below, but I would buy my comics at the comic book store, and I would walk down to Doyle's, which is this seafood restaurant that's a touristy place, but it's right by the Opera House on this Sydney Bridge. And they would close at 3 for 2 hours before dinner. And if I could get there like at 2:30, I would order a bottle of wine. I would order whatever fish I was interested in, and I would sit there and read my comics. I'd read all my comics eating fish at Doyle's. And then I would start walking back to Woolloomooloo, the wharf at Woolloomooloo, and make a circle. And then people would start calling me. The actors would start calling me and like, so what are we doing tonight? So, and that was what Sydney was like. Yeah, it was crazy. There was one Mexican restaurant in Sydney called Cafe Pacifico that I was actually having tequila shipped in from the States, and would just bring it there. And we would, every Friday night, the crew would want to go to Cafe Pacifico. We set the place on fire one night. It's pretty funny.
All right. Well, thanks again, Eduardo, for another super chat there. Appreciate the support. And we've got Justin coming up next. Hello, Justin.
There we go.
There
Okay.
you are.
Got it. Hey, hello.
How are you, sir? What's going on?
I'm doing okay. Didn't have much of a holidays because I had to work the holidays, both Christmas and New Year's.
Do they
But,
pay
you
you
know,
extra
I
for
get-
that?
Yeah, I get paid extra for it.
Oh,
so.
sweet.
Yeah.
More physical media for you.
Yeah. I had that big haul that I got to show off from all the gift cards I got last time on the Shawscope and all that. So it's gonna be, I got myself occupied for a while. I also finally got the Black Friday order that I made from Vinegar Syndrome. I got the Gorgo 4K and the Magic Crystal. So got a lot of stuff on my shelf.
Did you see that Vinegar Syndrome just put out Walter Hill's Southern Comfort in 4K?
It's part of the subscriber week that's going on this week. They revealed that. I was like, I've heard of that movie, I've never seen it.
It's great. It's great. It's also got a great Ry Cooder slide guitar score. I love Southern Comfort. That's part of classic Walter.
That sounds like that's going to be a buy for you.
Yeah, it's kind of a riff on Deliverance. But I got to tell you, I'm going to admit this now publicly. As I've been doing Let's Get Physical Media, and we're going through last year's stuff, I'm surrounded by discs. I'm trying to file. I've got to the point I'm like, do I need to buy any more movies? I mean, I was alphabetizing my 4Ks and stuff, and I'm looking at all this stuff, and I'm like, how much longer is this going to go on?
Right.
But then I think to myself, I'm like, there's maybe more. Maybe there's only 5 years left of physical media, and maybe. And I look at all these things that are coming out. Like I looked at the Warriors disc that Arrow put out. Again, Walter Hill. I wanted to weep. They put out Barbarella and the Warriors, and those movies both look so incredible. Those packages are incredible. The books they put out are incredible. Everything's incredible.
Arrow does a good job. So I am excited for Conan coming out at the end of the month.
They postponed it a couple weeks, but it's coming out at the end of the month. But I look at this stuff.
I'm just gonna get the original. I'm not getting the 2-pack. I don't need Conan the Destroyer. 4K.
I was
Give me the original.
I know that's all I really cared about, but I'm like, well,
it's like I gotta get it.
Well, it's just what if someone came to my house and said, "Do you have Conan the Destroyer?" I don't want to go. No.
And I saw some releases where I was like, whoa, really? Like Kino was putting out one of my favorite 80s movies from the Underwater Craze '89, Leviathan putting out in 4K. And that's been out of print for a while because it was last I blew here from Shell Factory, and that disc went out of print a couple years ago. So
yeah,
I'm gonna get that because I'm like, oh, that's a cool upgrade. And then like MVD has not been in Blu-ray here in the States, but it's been in Blu-ray overseas. Albert Pune's Mean Guns, which is probably my favorite Albert Pune movie, is finally getting a Blu-ray release here in the States from MVD.
That looks really cool.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing.
It's got like reversible cover and everything. I'm like, sold.
I know. I mean, there's so much cool stuff coming out.
I know.
And I feel like I should support it. But like I was thinking about this. This is now the 44th year of my life that I've collected physical media.
Mm-hmm.
The first was 1980 when I got a VCR. 44th year of my life. And I'm just like, how much, if I look at my collection of movies, and like I always say, how much time do I have left on this planet? What if I died tomorrow? People would be like, what would they do with my movie collection? Elizabeth, like, what am I going to do with all this shit?
Dibs on Rob's collection.
Why does anybody have? Elizabeth be like? Why the fuck do you still have a bunch of laser discs? And I'm like, because they're cool. I mean, I'm looking at my laser discs right now, and I'm like, they're cool.
Yeah, where's the line between hoarder and collector? Sometimes.
Well, what's funny was I got rid of most of my laser discs, but there's like 100 I kept. I'm like, well, these are cool. I like these.
I did get to besides seeing Godzilla -1 the second time with some friends just before the holidays, which was great. They all loved it. I also got to see the Iron Claw on my birthday.
Did you like it?
Oh yeah, it was great. It's like, as a wrestling fan, I was like, I knew a lot about the Von Erich family and all the tragedy they went through, and it was really well done. I knew like some of the stuff was. I was like, no, it's like Kerry Von Erich didn't get into the motorcycle accident that quickly after he beat Ric Flair for the title, and some other things. And also the guy they got to play Ric Flair in the movie, it's like I could do a better Ric Flair impression, but overall, I thought the movie was really well done. We really liked it, and performances were fantastic. Especially Zac Efron deserves some award noms. It's like he's amazing in the movie.
Yeah,
he's because he's it's all from his perspective. He's the main character. Because Kevin was the only one who didn't die of all the brothers. Who's still alive. So he was fantastic. Lily James, the cast was fantastic. Will McCallany from Mindhunter was great as the father. It's like, yeah, it deserves all the praise. It's just a well done movie.
Right.
So I look forward to owning that and rewatching it. Hopefully they have some decent special features from A24 when that gets released on disc. So
yeah,
I'm very curious. Yeah.
Is it A24 is who's putting out the Old Boy disc that's coming out in 4K, the anniversary disc? Is that A24?
Maybe.
I don't know. They're killing it too. I mean, A24 is killing it.
Oh yeah.
So much good stuff.
Yeah. I'm just counting the days until Dune comes out. Can't wait for Dune Part 2, man.
I know. I can't wait for that either. There's a lot of good movies I want to see. I can't wait for Furiosa. I can't wait for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I can't wait for Robert Eggers' Nosferatu. I was just talking about that. I can't even wait.
I want to check out Argyle. It's like a friend of mine.
It looks great.
That looks like a fun movie.
It looks so fun.
Like, I think I want to go see that with you. I was like, great, because I was like, that looks like a hoot. And the cast is insane. And I like Matthew Vaughn. I'm a fan of Matthew Vaughn. Kingsman and other stuff.
I am too.
So,
X-Men First Class.
Yeah, that looks like a lot of fun because I'm like, I'm almost glad to see Sam Rockwell front and center in a movie too. So it's like, yeah, so yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that out too. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff coming up. So I'm excited. All right, thanks, Rob.
All right, man. Good to see you.
Yep.
Good to see you, Justin. Thanks for stopping by. We got a couple more super chats here. Let me go ahead and Eduardo Ramirez keeps asking about Superman Returns, Rob. $4.99 from Eduardo saying, Dan Harris spilled a lot to me about this set. A lot of Kev, I guess it means Kevin Spacey convincing Brian to make Parker redo her single takes, and that Kev was cruel to everyone. He follows up saying, sorry to put you on the spot. Superman Returns is just so interesting to me. The film, the behind the scenes, it invented a camera system and basically invented legacy sequels.
Yeah, I mean, look, for the most part, I will say this. I think Brian was at the top of his game when he made that movie. It started out rough because he had a lot of pressure on him, and I think that he had some first day jitters. So the first day of production was postponed like a week. But for the most part, I had a really great experience on that. But yeah, Kevin Spacey was nice to me, and I had a couple of interesting nights out with him. Where imagine me and two other guys were in the back of a car, and we had a hammered Kevin Spacey on our laps, stretched across the back of the car, singing Bobby Darin tunes.
Wow.
Just after we got him wasted on tequila at Cafe Pacifico, which no longer exists, by the way, which is I think Cafe Pacifico closed in 2015 or something. Wow. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But yeah, he was only down for 6 weeks, and he wasn't nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everybody, who I really admired on that shoot was Kate Bosworth. She had a tough role. She was absolutely delightful. And I'll tell you something, I thought she delivered a world-class performance on that film. And someone else I really, really loved was James Marsden.
Uh-huh.
And I'll tell you a funny story about that was, so at Fox Studios, if you plugged in on the internet, a lot of people, like, I didn't know this when I first started, like, I had my iTunes library, in my computer, and because we're shooting stuff, my computer was like always open. And I noticed that there was all this activity on my iTunes library. And so there was a lot of people on the Fox lot. People could get into my iTunes library. My iTunes library was, anybody who was plugged into the network could listen to my iTunes library. So people kept coming up to me going, "You have a great iTunes library, man," which was heavily weighted with 80s music and stuff. And because it was huge, I had tens of thousands of songs on my iTunes library. So people were downloading songs out of my, and I did. So I was like, well, that's kind of weird. But so James Marsden would call like his kids stateside, and he would sing to them through his computer.
Uh-huh.
And some people would you'd be like, oh, and could hear it. So you could listen to James Marsden playing music for his kids. And he was, that guy was so charismatic.
Yeah.
And just so nice. I mean, I haven't seen him since then, but I mean, Sydney it was crazy. It was crazy because the crew, we all went out and partied, worked really hard. I mean, like the Fifth Fleet comes into Sydney Harbor, and the I can't even tell you what King's Cross was like. It was like this bacchanal. It was crazy. I mean, it was because prostitution is legal there too. They had these huge brothels. Like, I didn't even know that at one time.
Like
I walked in,
red light district kind of setup.
It was just a party district.
Yeah,
I walked into this bar, and I'm drinking at this bar, and these hot, I was married at the time, these hot girls kept coming up to me, and I'm like, what's going on, man? I mean, I don't look that good. Come on. And it was I didn't realize that you can just go upstairs if you wanted to. It was wild.
Wow.
It was wild. It was so wild. That year was wild.
Wow.
It was wild.
Rob, I always thought that James Marsden, just because of the way that his relationship was set up, and Superman returning into the mix, that he would have been set up for a future movie as like Metallo maybe or something like that. I don't know if there was ever a plan for something like that, but that was where my mind was going with his character.
Well, it's too bad that the movie didn't connect. And I understand why. I mean, I do think if they had released the original version, which was a half an hour longer, so it was almost a 3-hour movie, that people would have liked it more.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem was when Brian, he doesn't really do test screenings. He does friends and family screenings, and younger people didn't know the Richard Donner movie. So when the movie opened with destroyed Krypton and Superman, his crystal ship going over, and it was, they took all that out because there was hardly any dialogue in the first 20 minutes of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Eduardo just jumped in with one final super chat. Thanks again for the support, Eduardo. My last one. Why the hell is it not on 4K yet? It's freaking Superman. Every single theatrical Superman is out on 4K, but this one, it'll be 18 this year.
It's because of Brian and Kevin Spacey. That is the sole reason.
Huh.
And I even talked to people at Warner Brothers, and I said, there's a longer cut of this movie, and it's not entirely finished, but it would be something to include. And I talked to Brian about it, and I said, I shot 1,500 hours of behind the scenes footage on the making of that movie, and the documentary we made only covers, it's only 3 hours long. Yeah. And I'm like, there was just things I thought we were going to do a 6-hour piece, and Walmart killed that. So it was a bummer. But the problem is that Superman Returns is not as well regarded as other Superman. I think it's way better than Superman 3 and 4. Oh, yeah. And I think Brandon Routh's great in the role, and I really like all the actors. I think Frank Langella is a great Perry White. And I thought everybody in the movie was good. And plus, people like Cal Penn, Kevin Spacey's henchman, doesn't even have a line. All of his lines of dialogue were cut out of the movie. So in the Friends and Family version, there's a lot more detail about how they ginned up evidence that Krypton still existed. And that's why Superman went back. So it was Luthor that sent Superman on this wild goose chase. And it's too bad, because I think that there's more to that story that could be told.
Yeah.
So
one last follow-up here from Eduardo. Now, Usual Suspects is also in 4K. It has Bryan Singer and Kevin Spacey, but I guess maybe the conflict over Superman is a different, unrelated to that.
Well, it's really some of the studios, look, it's all politics. When people are accused of because some people just don't care. Like Kino Lorber's, like, they don't care.
Yeah. But
Warner Brothers, everyone's so worried about it's a bad look or people are going to get angry. I'm like, fuck them. My attitude is fuck them, man. The complicated relationship between art and the artist is, look at Maestro, another movie that I wish I liked it more. But even though I put it as one of my 10 best of the year, it's a complicated problem. Yeah. And the thing is, and Kevin Spacey was exonerated. He was acquitted of any wrongdoing. And Brian, of course, all these accusations people make against Brian, I know Brian. Brian can be his own worst enemy, but he just doesn't do the things people say he does. And I'll tell you something. I've said this before, but if I was ever thrown in jail because they found me in a hotel room with a butcher knife in my hand and a dead hooker in the bed, and I was covered with blood, I would call Brian and he would bail me out of jail. He would want to know if I did it, but he'd bail me out of jail.
Yeah.
And Brian has been very good to me. And he's never asked me to cover up anything unsavory or anything like that. He's been very good to me. And I respect him and I like him. And we're going to hear more from him.
Yeah, yeah. Mark Spector adds, how does Kevin Spacey have any say over the cut being released? I don't think it's so much Kevin Spacey.
It's not.
Controversy around him.
Yeah, he has no say. It's all up to the studio.
It's all the studio.
It was.
Yeah.
And for me, I had such working on Superman Returns was such an incredible experience to me. I went from working on Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and we were in country for 14 months, and I jumped right over to Australia for a year to work on Superman Returns. And just things about being in Australia, it was so much fun. And like when we were in Gunnedah Shire, which is northwest inland of Sydney, just my experience being in Gunnedah Shire for 3 weeks, where we shot Smallville. It was a miraculous place. Actually, Gunnedah Shire, Tamworth, Australia's country music capital, and that was a crazy place. And just as an aside, this is a funny story. So they're kind of in the main street of Tamworth, right up the hill from the big guitar. Like they have this big guitar. It's a landmark. There's a hotel, and there was a bar in the hotel. And I was sitting there one night, just having a beer, because I loved going to Australia, and I talked to everybody everywhere. I talked to anybody. I loved being there because you're in a part of the world, and they speak the language. So I would love to just sit and talk to people. I did a lot of that in Tamworth, and I was talking to this guy, just sidles up to me at the bar, and he says to me, yeah, I just got out of prison. And I was like, what? And he says, yeah, I was in prison for 15 years. And the train, he's going back to Sydney, but I guess the Tamworth, the train would stop and then he'd get another train. He was spending the night. And I was like, really? I go, what were you in jail for? And he goes, I murdered my best friend. And he in a very Australian way, it was very, I killed my best friend and I killed my best mate. And I was like, really? Oh, he's fucking my wife, and I'm like, wow. And I'm like, I'll buy you a picture. And so I bought him and we just sat in, nice guy, and he was just going and that, but it was so like, he was just very matter of fact about it. I did it.
Yeah.
And then he was on his way.
Wow.
I mean, it was great. I mean, when you go to foreign countries, same thing with New Zealand, when we went to Bulgaria and made Hills Run Red. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah. All right. We've got Kevin Welburn waiting here for a little bit, so let's go ahead and bring him in.
Speaking of Aussies.
Yeah, and of physical media, right?
Mate, we need a slab of VB, mate.
Welcome, Kelvin.
G'day. Thanks for hello, Rob. Hey, Cal.
How's it going, man? Don't worry. I won't. If I saw you, we'd drink at least Cooper's. I would not inflict VB on you.
Correct.
That's right.
Correct. None of that.
Unless it was VB on tap is better than VB in the bottle. But Cooper's was my jam. It
is. It's great. It's great. I actually, it's Tasmanian beer. I prefer the one that comes from Launceston, which is it's not Cascade, which is the Hobart, where they don't even make the beer there anymore. It's made in Melbourne. And it's ridiculous.
Tasmanian beer is made in Melbourne?
I know. You can't. It's because it's now all owned by the same company as Carlton United Breweries and all. Anyway, it's just crazy, man. So it's good to hear that you had a great time in Sydney.
Dude, I loved it. I wish I could. I wanted to go to Ayers Rock, which you can't go do anymore, and I wanted to go up to the.
I'll tell you a story about Ayers Rock, also known as Uluru.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, can't offend the First Nations people. I have climbed the rock.
Oh,
I was 17. I'm not so concerned about the historical aspect for them, their myths and legends and things. I was more worried when I got to the bottom of reading the sign which said that 50 people had died on the rock. From heart attacks falling off. So if I'd known that first, I wouldn't have gone. But it's a great view. It is.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to go up there and sing Midnight Oil's Beds Are Burning or something. That was another thing. Another thing about Australia, I think I've told this before. I knew who Jimmy Barnes was because he sang with INXS on the Lost Boys soundtrack. But one of the first night I was in Bondi Beach with a friend of mine, and we were in a bar, and he goes, I want to show you something that doesn't happen in America. And I went, really? What are you going to show me? And he went and put Money in the Jukebox. And I'd never heard of the band Cold Chisel. We just don't have Cold Chisel in America. And it was like watching a bunch of animals all poking their heads up out of the ground when they heard the song, whatever this Cold Chisel song was. The entire bar starts singing this song, like in their, drunken revelry. And I was like, this is amazing. This would never happen in Los Angeles. And I'm like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. And that pretty much sums it up for me.
I have seen Cold Chisel myself. And Jimmy Barnes. I saw Cold Chisel back in about 1983 on a bill with the Divinals. And,
oh, wow.
Who else? There was a bunch of other people. But I was only a teenager, so I completely outwashed. The Meyer Music Bowl, which is very, it's like your Hollywood Bowl, I think. It's like an open air with some seats.
Yeah. Well, like the Big Day Out and stuff. All that stuff was.
Right. Yeah. But,
That was great.
Oh, it is. You just think that those days, geez, man. Anyway, a couple of quick questions. One was that I watched a Dave Cullen video about our franchises and how, walk away from them. And I actually took a contrary.
I watched that video.
I took a contrary view. The franchises have moved on from us.
Yes.
They've left us behind. They've gone off on their own. So I think to myself, for me, things like Doctor Who, Star Wars, or Star Trek, it's finished. But they're off doing whatever they were going to do over there. I think let them do it over there. I'm glad that Doctor Who is now Series 1 for the Disney Plus series, because that means it's completely cut off from the rest of the series. Well, the 2000.
Oh, is that true? They're calling it Series 1?
Yes, they are.
Actually,
Really?
Season one. They're actually using
Season 1,
as the new terminology. Yeah.
Correct. So
Wow.
And I think it's something to do with the fact that Disney have not just financial, but they have an actual say in the production.
Yeah, of course.
And so, so that's why, and the ratings are shit. I mean, I'm glad I'm not watching it. But...
Oh, wait a minute. I have an update. For you. The Conan box set from Arrow has a new estimated delivery date of February 21st. It's been postponed longer.
Okay.
Look at that. I know Justin and Calvin and Justin are like, uh-oh. This is just breaking news.
Oh, damn it.
I don't know what to tell you. Breaking news. Conan delayed for 3 more weeks.
But I'll tell you, you're discussing downsizing your collection. Like, I've just gathered together this box here of DVDs the other day from the first show. And I'm thinking, am I going to watch any of this stuff again? Especially, a lot of these are what I would call the 1990s cheap and cheerful action movies.
Right. Like Stone Cold.
Oh,
yeah.
These are with people like Jeff Speakman.
Yeah.
Jeff Wincott. Michael Dudikoff, Strategic Command.
Yeah.
What am I doing with some of this stuff?
I don't know. I've been feeling the same way. I've been pulling out. Like, I finally decided that, okay, I've got like 8 copies of Gladiator. I think it's just time to have one in 4K.
I think you're right.
I'm not going to give up my To Live and Die in LA collection or my Dawn of the Dead collection. I'm keeping all those, but everything else, it's like one of each. I've been pulling out like the Criterion duplicated stuff in 4K. It looks exactly the same. I'm not. No, and now I can't believe I was pulling out. I mean, I must have 150 Blu-rays that are duplicates now, more probably, and it's insane. It's ridiculous. I'm gonna go trade them in at Amoeba. We have a record store that will take trade-ins and give you money.
I have to give them away to the op shop. Really, can't sell. Yeah. Anyway, thanks, Rob. Looks like it's my time.
Calvin,
over.
It's always good to see you.
Great to see you, Calvin.
I'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Thanks, Roberto.
Yeah, take care.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, and Happy New Year. That's right. Tom Jr. Jackson is joining us next. Welcome, Tom.
Hello.
How's it going, man?
Hey there. It's going okay. My mom's in the hospital.
Oh no. Is she okay? Is she gonna be okay?
That's a little problem with her heart, but she's doing okay. They put on some medication she's trying out, and hopefully she'll be home Monday.
Oh, that's good. Sorry to hear that. Keep us informed.
Yeah. I got my chair the other day. I sent you a picture of it.
Yeah.
The Reynolds chair. It's a nice chair too.
Yeah, it's sweet.
Yeah.
What's your background?
And,
That's cool. What did you make that?
I did that with AI.
Oh, okay.
I forgot what
Alon
it
and
was.
you
I
with the
think it's
AI,
like-
man. You guys are the AI masters.
Well, I'm slowly learning how to do it. So
Yeah. Yeah, I got to sit
it's
down
fun.
and
It's just it's a little fun thing to do, you know?
become the. I need to become the master of prompts.
Yeah.
But,
I ended up getting an autographed Funko Pop of Chevy Chase for Christmas.
wow, how cool is that?
My brother got that for me for Christmas.
What of which is it? Chevy Chase the man, or is it a Chevy Chase character?
Let's see here. It's Chevy Chase from. Oh, you can't really see it because I got the background up. But
Yeah.
it's him from Christmas Vacation with the hat and the.
Oh, that's cool.
The eggnog and stuff.
That's cool.
And I recently got a Funko Pop of Michael Keaton from The Flash, but it's him without the cowl on. And it's called a preview Funko. And it's not on the box. It's like not like you can look on it and find the character to purchase. So it must have been like a future Funko Pop that's coming out or something like that. But I ended up finding it on Amazon. And I got that. And that was pretty cool. And I got 2 Indiana Jones Funko Pops. The one of him running from the boulder, and the other one is with Indiana Jones on the motorcycle with his father.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. So those are cool.
That is cool.
Yeah. Other than that, I'm doing okay. I got the Holdovers, and I watched it the other day. I love that movie.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, Holdovers is great. And I've just been trying to save up so I can go and visit the nice lady in Illinois who really likes me.
That's good. Are you still chatting?
Yeah, we still chat. We chat every night. And
Nice.
she wanted me to send you her best because she watches the shows.
Oh, we'll tell her thank you.
Well, yeah.
I thought last night's
I
show was
will.
pretty good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed
That show went by fast.
Yeah, I thought it was good. The first show. Glad we hadn't done that show since December 1st. It's been over a month. I didn't realize that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Craziness.
And, you had a good Christmas for you too?
Yeah, I mean, it was very low key. I kind of enjoyed it. But it was, this year has been I'm not sorry to see 2023 in the rear view, let me tell you that. It's I think it's been tough all around for a lot of people. So
hopefully it'll get better. So
yeah, although I'm fearful it's going to get a lot crazier and weirder, and more dangerous.
It could be worse. Like someone could say aliens attacked a mall in Florida.
Well, did you see? I just tweeted out that I read in the Daily Mail. I don't know how reputable this is, but they're having a top secret meeting in Congress about UFO retrieval programs. Like it's just thrown out there. Like, well, yes, indeed, we're going to have a top. Like, what? Top secret meeting
it's
about
not
UFO?
top secret if we're putting it out there.
Well, they're saying that this is happening, but I mean, it's crazy to me, this story. I don't know if it's all distraction, I don't know, but the UFO story in 2023 has been insane. And I wonder, because here's the thing. I think the world really wants it all to be real. Like for real. The only problem is one, the societal impact, but then they would have to admit that let's just say there is a UFO crash retrieval program, and we actually are sitting on the knowledge that whether they're people from the future or alternate dimensions, or they're actually aliens, extraterrestrials that have been visiting the Earth, say since it'll explain why the pyramids were built. Like, why were the Great Pyramids of Giza built? Certainly not to honor pharaohs. We know that. But let's say that all of this comes out. It would mean that our government or our aerospace industry has been wantonly covering up this from the world for decades and decades and decades, which means it would just, we don't trust anybody anyway, but it would throw into disarray everything that we know. And so I find it, I mean, I want that to happen. I just want to see what would happen, you know, and where does that leave us? And the question remains, if we have all this extraterrestrial technology or wherever it came from, and some people, like if you listen to Bob Lazar, he says part of this technology is archaeological in nature, meaning that it was here for a long time, or whatever that means. And if that's the case, and this information could be just the very information humanity needs to start transforming into something better. You know, I always talk about Yuval Harari's book, Sapiens, and he asks at the end of that book, we have to ask ourselves who we want to be. And Yuval Harari's right. You know, I tell everybody to read that book of his, and it would be interesting if this becomes a thing.
Yeah.
But I want there to be aliens. I want this to be true.
Oh yeah. I
do.
just find it funny that a bunch of kids throw fireworks in a mall. Aliens invaded the mall.
I mean, what did it mean? What I don't know.
Because the one place the aliens are gonna really want to do is invade a mall. Why not? They're all into Orange Julius.
I would like to believe, you know, like in our movies, that aliens have been harvesting human body parts, and I want to believe that they seeded Earth with us. Anything that we've seen aliens do, you know, Jupiter ascending, that the aliens are going to come harvest humanity one day. It's all of that stuff. What would it do?
Yeah, we're just a perfume factory for the aliens, right?
Yeah, that's yes. Or they're gonna smoke us like in Torchwood Children of Earth.
Right.
They just smoke kids as their drug.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey,
which I thought was monstrous, but also kind of awesome in the context of that show. I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah. Thanks, Tom. We got a few more super chats here. Paulie from Latino Slant just says, "I love R&B" for $1.99 there. Thank you so
thank
much,
you, man.
Paulie. Good to see you. And we've got the film guy who's saying he's been a member for 32 months. That's thoughts on the Chronicles of Narnia new movies director.
It's Greta Gerwig, unless they changed it. Greta Gerwig was slated to direct. I mean, I worked for a long time on Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I think Greta Gerwig is actually a great choice to direct those movies.
Mm-hmm.
And unlike what happened with the original iterations, I don't think they're bad movies, but it would have been nice to have the same kind of cohesion that Lord of the Rings had. The problem is that the Narnia books cover so much time that in order to have, I mean, it's almost like each book is a different.
Yeah, they don't have a very clear continuity like the other.
No,
like Lord of the Rings does, right? Yeah.
Yes, and it would be like
jump back in time, and they jump back and forth in time also.
Yeah, like would you do them in order? So I don't know how they're going to start. It's going to be interesting to see. But I think she is a good. I think she is a good person to direct the movies.
And
I do.
Mark Spector's Avatar, $4.99. Thank you, Mark. Will film cut that will never see the light of day have you? Oh, okay. So, what film cut that will never see the light of day have you seen that was really awesome? So, is there a cut of a movie that you have seen that will never be released that you think is great?
Well, other than Superman Returns, which I like, that I don't know if it'll never be released, but not really. I mean, I haven't seen. I'm trying to think. There's got to be something that I've seen that.
Yeah. Other than fan cuts, I can't think of anything.
I'll tell you. This is gonna be. And if I didn't say this, Dieter Bastian would yell at me. Actually, there are two movies I would like to see, and both of them coincidentally are Silver Pictures. The Adventures of Ford Fairlane. When I saw it, it was a half an hour longer, and I greatly enjoyed that cut. And Predator 2. Predator 2 was significantly edited to make it quicker, and I think that there's a much better movie. Predator 2 is fine, but there's much more. You know, it's that time when we have to just get to it. Why do we have to have character development? But I would love to see Predator 2 and The Adventures of Ford Fairlane have different versions released on video.
Great.
So,
all right, we've got Alon joining us now away from Israel. Hello, Alon.
Israel.
Welcome. How are you, my friend?
Shalom, shalom. I'm doing
Shalom.
well.
How are things going with you in the new year?
I mean, not much has changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really celebrate the New Year's. It was quite an unceremonious
Understandable
evening. So I wanted to celebrate tonight. Also, it helps that it coincides with my dog's birthday. So cheers to 11 more winters with Luna.
My dog's birthday, Sebastian, the father of the puppies, his birthday's today too.
Woo!
So let's hear it. So I'll drink my little margarita drink.
Cheers to them.
Cheers. By the way, I don't know who makes these, but man, these are like my new favorite things. These pre-mixed cocktails. Normally I don't believe in that, but these on the rocks premium cocktails, these are good.
They sound delicious.
Mm-hmm.
You described them earlier.
But here's to our dog. I think Sebastian now he's 2 years old. 2 years old.
Well, mine's 11.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. I still haven't got around to watching Aquaman. But I'm going to. I'm going to today. In a couple of days, I think, on Monday. But what I wanted to talk about was something else entirely. I had the privilege of introducing my nephew, my 7-year-old nephew, to old video games, and and I've introduced him to a lot of old video games, like Aladdin, like the old, the ancient.
Yeah.
Aladdin and Lion King and Skyroads and Dangerous Dave. Like decrepit good games, like not even old, like very old.
Yeah, how does he dig them?
And it was shocking to me that he really liked them. Like Skyroads, he is absolutely addicted to. Like he loved it so much. There were some of them that didn't age that well,
right?
And it failed to like capture him. But other than that, it's easy to see like how just how great those games were, in the sense that they still capture the imagination of a 7-year-old, and like he's still hooked on it. It's so great to see, because as someone who's lost faith in humanity, like 7 times over the last year, like it's so fun to see something like sparks joy like that, which was awesome. I really hope I really hope we go back to like that age of like pure joy,
right?
Without monetizing everything, without shoving microtransactions, and without trying to like squeeze as much money as you can from your customer, and it also applies to cinema, which I feel like we've been pushing the edge of like going according to formula, and we've kind of let go of some of our values in the or some of the creativity, I would say.
I completely agree. I completely agree.
Yeah, so it was like it was a fun experience, and it was very refreshing. What is it that like did you have experience with like those video games? And
I was a big Intellivision guy in the 80s. I loved Intellivision. I played ColecoVision and Atari, both 2600 and 5200. And then when I moved to California in 88, I kind of fell out of video games until I got until I saw Shadows of the Empire, the N64 game, and it made me buy an N64 console. And then I got back into gaming, and I GameCube, PlayStation. I never had a Saturn, but then I got back into playing games. But my favorite video game of the 90s, bar none, was Activision's remake of Battlezone.
Whoa.
I was obsessed.
That's a deep cut.
Battlezone was a first-person shooter, and it was a real-time strategy game. And what it was, the premise of Battlezone, the 80s version was just a vector graphics version from the early 80s. But this one, they reframed it, and the Cold War was the Soviets, kind of like For All Mankind. The Soviets and the Americans went out into space to conquer the solar system. So you went from planet to planet fighting the Soviets. And the physics of the game, the movement, because you fought in hover tanks, and then you could blast out of the hover tank, and it became a first-person shooter where you could run around, but at the same time, you had to create a base that would be mining natural resources to keep you going. And I was it was so good, and I was totally obsessed with this game because the graphics for at the time were really great, but it was the gameplay that was so amazing. And everything that you had to do, you had to manage all this stuff and make sure you had like robot tanks that would go mine for you, and then they would pick up the raw minerals you need to build more tanks and build the base. And at the same, like, they did things like, if you were hundreds of miles from your base, there were catapults that would catapult, like if you ran out of ammunition, they would catapult you ammunition, and you would have to wait for it to come to you. And I mean, it was just such a well-conceived game, and that game I was totally obsessed with. And then PlayStation.
You reminded me. You reminded me of a fascinating documentary. I will send it to you because it's not long and it's fascinating, about the boy who beat Tetris for the first time in like I think 34 years, something like that.
Oh yeah,
he made it crush, which is like the highest of honors. You like he continued to play until the game itself crashed. And it's fascinating. It's about half an hour.
I'd love
and
to
it talks
watch
about
it.
the history of like how we as humanity advanced like our scores, and we figure out ways to increase our scores. And then it came to this year that a couple of very, very skilled Tetris players basically were competing about on defeating the game, and a little boy managed to do it. And it's fascinating. It's uplifting. It's amazing. Really.
Oh, I want to see that.
Yeah,
I'll
send it to you.
Did you see the movie Tetris?
I did. I went on a spiral with that one. I loved it so much.
It was so good. I mean, that movie, Blackberry Air, the movie about the guy who came up with flaming hot Cheetos. They're all great. I mean, it's all these people that, and it was they were all uplifting.
Yeah,
you know, they were all like people had these ideas.
Also on Netflix, Speedcubers, such a great documentary.
Oh, I haven't.
Guys like who with the Hungarian cube, amazing.
Oh, I'll have to watch that. Yeah, I mean, that was funny. That was something of 2023. That was these uplifting people with ideas, turning them into business. You know, making a great product movies.
Please.
Yeah, give us more of that. I mean, that's the funny thing about this year, and the funny thing that we live in this society where everyone's complaining about, you know, representation and racism and all that, and everyone's complaining about Western civilization. And I'm like, but there's all this great stuff that Western civilization. I mean, our world is made possible. Like Israel is this isn't talked about enough, but Israel is one of the tech hubs of the world. I mean, the innovation, the technological innovation that's happening in Israel, that alone is something the world can't afford to lose. And it's so weird that everybody wants to burn everything down, but what are you going to replace it with? Our society was on a pretty great trajectory, and I'm very curious. I'm looking back, and there's evidence to support that's about 10 years ago, 2014, maybe a little earlier, that there was a concerted effort to inject all of this identity politics into Western civilization, beginning with America, that it was a concerted effort to start to dismantle the West. And I find that very curious, because you read about all this stuff and everybody wants all this. There's something going on with while we've been talking, Chris Gore sent me an email and said that, or sent me a couple of texts, that the Writers Guild of America is going to make writers sign forms that demand to know. I mean, this is shocking to me. So here's what he sent me these forms that you have to sign, that WGA members have to sign. Advanced search and criteria. So you have to declare your sexual identity, which is heterosexual, asexual, bisexual, pansexual, gay, lesbian, queer, and unspecified. First of all, how does that have any bearing on being a writer? Then it goes on to ask your gender identity, male, female, non-binary, transgender, trans, feminine, trans, masculine, unspecified. Then it asks for disability. Disability, autoimmune condition or chronic illness, blind or low vision, cognitive disorder, deaf or hard of hearing, dwarfism, limb difference, mental disorder, mobility disability, neurodiverse, physical disfigurement, or unspecified. And the last thing is, and this is the kicker, if I can open it up, it's not opening up. Sorry, I can't get to it, but it asks what your nationality is. And it's got all of these different world nationalities. And this is from the WGA. And I would ask, what does any of that have to do with being a writer? And it's because they want to click these boxes. And it's so weird. Why are you prioritizing on these? I would ask, well, what do you want to write? What difference does any of this make when it comes to being a writer? And the fact that we're now having to codify this, who we are as people, and we're now, all that does is create immediate division. You're putting people into categories, and we see where that leads. And this is the Writers Guild of America. Not cool. Not cool. Hey, Roberto.
We're gonna take we're at the 2-hour mark. So do you want to take a break now?
Yes,
that way
because
we can say goodbye to our YouTube friends, and you can go and take care of business.
Yes,
All
yes, right. Yes. Thank you for that. So hold tight, everybody. I will be back.
And we will say goodbye to our friends on. Let me just go ahead and get myself on screen here for a moment. Where am I? I don't even know where I am. Here we go. So thanks everyone who has joined us on YouTube. Typically, we run about the first couple of hours of the show live, and then we say goodbye, but the chat will continue for those who are members of the channel. So we're going to take a little break. For those of you on YouTube, thank you for joining us. Remember, if you want to join us in a future chat, become a member for as little as $1 a month, and we will have you. You can have us join in the chat and chat with Rob during these member chats that we hold here. So until next time, we will see all of our friends in YouTube in a couple of weeks. Take care, everybody.